It's funny how life sometimes hits you so hard that you can't even breathe right afterward. I remember the day clear as glass, our anniversary trip. We'd saved up for months, booked that fancy weekend escape to the coast. Sand, surf, and all the romantic cliches. I've been looking forward to it because, honestly, things had been good enough. Or so I thought. She was dressed to kill that morning in a tight red dress that made her eyes pop, her hair shining under the sun. I remember feeling proud, like I'd hit the jackpot. We checked into the hotel and the first couple of hours went perfect. We walked along the beach, hands intertwined, talking about everything and nothing. But beneath that surface, I'd sometimes catch her glancing at her phone more than usual, quickly hiding it whenever I looked her way. Small things, little flicks of suspicion that I brushed off. She's just excited, I told myself. It's our special weekend. That night after dinner, we settled into bed. She was in my arms, and I thought maybe I was overthinking everything. Then her phone buzzed. She grabbed it quick, her fingers trembling slightly as she unlocked it. I saw the screen light up, an incoming message from my best friend, Mark. My stomach twisted. I'd never thought much of Mark, but he was my closest buddy. Seeing his name pop up made my chest tight. I didn't say anything yet. I just watched her, felt the cold sweat gather at my temples. She kept typing, her thumbs flying over the keyboard. She didn't seem worried about hiding it. That's when I saw the message preview. Can't wait to see you tonight. Been thinking about last time. Just that one line, but enough to make my heart pound hard against my ribs. My mind raced. What the hell was going on? My wife, the woman I loved, was texting my best friend behind my back. During our anniversary trip, no less. I felt a dull ache in my jaw, my fists clenched so tight my palms ached. I wanted to scream, to shake her until she told the truth. But instead, I kept my cool, pushed the phone aside, and pretended everything was fine. Later that night, I lay there looking at the ceiling. My skin felt clammy, my head pounding with questions I couldn't yet answer. Why? How long? Was I blind to all the signs? I knew I had to find out the truth. Nothing was going to stay this way. I had to see her messages, had to know what she was hiding. The next morning, I woke up early, feeling like I'd swallowed a stone. She was still asleep beside me, her chest rising and falling calmly. I reached over carefully, pretending to grab my phone, but instead, I slid her phone out from under her pillow. I muted the screen, no notifications, no obvious signs of what I was about to find. I unlocked it quietly, her messages, her social media. I scrolled through the conversations, my stomach twisting tighter with each line I read. There were dozens of texts, photos, and emojis exchanged with Mark, flirty, suggestive, intimate. It was clear they'd been planning this for a while. The worst part, they'd even joked about how I'd never suspect, how I was so clueless. The phrase hit me like a punch, clueless. I'd always thought I knew her, but I was a fool. She'd been planning her escape, and I'd been too busy believing in the fairy tale. My vision blurred as anger bubbled up. I clenched. Her phone so tight my knuckles turned white. The betrayal was raw. I'd trusted her with everything. And here she was, sneaking around, planning her future with my best friend. The words, "How could she do this?" kept echoing in my mind. I had to step back, breathe. I needed a plan, a way to handle this without losing my mind. I couldn't confront her immediately. I needed proof, a plan, a way to make her understand I wasn't some fool she could walk all over. I closed her phone with a snap, feeling the weight of her lies settle in my stomach like a poisonous stone. That's when I knew I wasn't just going to let her get away with it, not without a fight. And I'd make damn sure she paid for every second of betrayal. The question was, what was I willing to do? How far would I go to make her regret this? I didn't have the answers yet, but I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. I looked out the window, the ocean glinting in the sunlight, and I felt that cold resolution settle deep inside me. Revenge was coming, slow but sure, and I'd be ready when it did. I spent the rest of that morning trying to clear my head, but it was damn near impossible. Every breath I took felt like a reminder of everything she'd just thrown in my face, her lies, her betrayal, her plan to leave me. The worst part, I knew I couldn't trust her anymore, not even a little. I kept replaying that message from Mark in my head over and over. It was like a poison twisting inside, feeding my rage. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I'd always thought she was the one, the person I'd build a life with. Now I saw her for what she really was, a traitor, a liar, and someone who'd been planning to walk away from me for months. I had to do something. Sitting around feeling sorry for myself wasn't going to change anything. I had to be smart, calculated. First, I needed proof, more than just her messages. I needed to find out how deep this went, who else she'd been talking to, what her plans were. I decided I'd check her phone again, go through her social media, see if there were any other clues. I also wanted to see where she'd go when she disappeared for hours yesterday. She'd hidden her phone under the pillow, but maybe she'd left a trail somewhere else. I waited until she was in the shower, then quietly grabbed her phone again. I knew I shouldn't be doing this, but I couldn't think straight. I sifted through her texts, her call logs, even her photos. Everything pointed to one thing: she'd been lying to me for months. She'd been talking to him, Mark, more than I'd realized. There were photos of them together, mostly from last week at some bar downtown. They looked cozy, happy. It made me sick. I paused, feeling my jaw tight. My fists clenched so hard my palms ached. I couldn't believe she'd been so blatant about it. And what made me angriest, the fact that she'd planned all this right under my nose, right in the open. She made her move during our anniversary trip. That's when I saw the signs, that's when I should have known. But I was too stupid, too trusting. Suddenly, I heard her call from the shower. I snapped her phone shut and slipped it back under her pillow. I needed to get out of there before she caught me. I went outside, sat on the balcony with the cold ocean breeze hitting my face. My mind was racing. I had to think clearly. I couldn't let her see how much I'd discovered. Not yet. I knew I'd need a plan, a way to make her pay for what she'd done without just losing it in the moment. That's when the idea started forming. Revenge. Sweet, precise, calculated revenge. I'd make her regret every second of betrayal. I'd make her wish she'd never crossed me. I spent the next few hours planning. When she came out of the shower, I was already pretending to be calm, but inside I was a storm. She looked at me with a guilty smile, like she thought she had me fooled. "Did you sleep okay?" she asked, brushing her damp hair behind her ear. "Fine," I said, voice flat. "Didn't sleep much, might be the stress of being cheated on." Her eyes flickered. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, I saw the messages," I said coldly. "You're planning to leave me, aren't you?" With Mark during our trip, her face paled for a second, but she quickly masked it. "You're being paranoid," she whispered. "Paranoid?" "No," I snapped. "I've got proof. I saw everything. You've been lying, planning this for months. How could you do this to me?" She looked down, silent. That silence was enough to tell me everything I needed. She was caught and she knew it. But I wasn't finished. I was just getting started. I told her I needed some time to think, that I wasn't going to let her walk away without consequences. I kept my voice steady, but inside I was already planning my next move. She thought she could cheat, betray, and walk out on me like I was nothing. Well, she was about to learn she'd messed with the wrong person. Now I just had to figure out how to turn this all in my favor. I wasn't going to let her get away with this, not without a fight. And when I was done, she'd regret ever crossing me. That was a promise. The next couple of days felt like walking on a tightrope, every step calculated, every breath heavy with anticipation. I stayed quiet, pretending I was still, figuring things out, but inside I was scheming. I needed leverage, something ironclad, something that would make her realize she couldn't just walk away and forget about me. I spent hours scouring her social media, digging for anything that could be useful. I found a few more photos of her and Mark, more intimate ones, some I hadn't seen before. I also saw that she'd been messaging a few other people, possibly more than I knew. It was all clicking into place. She'd been planning this entire betrayal for months. The betrayal wasn't just with Mark. It was part of a bigger plan to leave, to start fresh somewhere else. I knew I had to act, but I wasn't going to do it impulsively. My mind was a storm of anger, betrayal, and a strange sliver of clarity. Revenge was the only way to make her understand she'd crossed a line she couldn't come back from. One afternoon, I went to the local cafe and bought a burner phone. I knew she'd check her messages sometime soon, so I wanted something discreet, something I could use without leaving my fingerprints. I set up a new number and fired off a text, carefully crafted. Make her panic, an anonymous message, but one that would hit her hard. I texted her, "I know everything. You're not going anywhere. You're staying right here where I can keep an eye on you. Don't bother trying to lie or deny it. I've got proof." The moment I hit send, a rush of adrenaline hit me. Her face flashed in my mind. She'd be worried, confused, maybe even scared. That's exactly what I wanted. To shake her confidence, to make her realize I wasn't some fool she could manipulate anymore. And sure enough, within an hour, her phone buzzed. She looked around nervously as she checked her messages, her eyes widening slightly when she saw the anonymous note. She looked over at me, trying to hide her reaction, but I saw the flicker of panic. "Who is this?" she asked, voice trembling. I shrugged. "Doesn't matter. What matters is you're not leaving anytime soon. I've got everything I need to make this easier for both of us, or harder if you prefer." She rubbed her forehead, trying to stay calm. "You're overreacting," she whispered. "It's just a stupid joke." "No," I said sharply, "it's no joke. I know what you're planning. I know about Mark. And I also know you're trying to sneak away without telling me. But I'm not going to let you do that, not without consequences." Her face was a mask of frustration and fear. She knew she'd been caught and that I had leverage now. I could see her mind racing, trying to come up with some excuse, some way out, but I didn't give her that chance. I was just getting started. That evening, I sat her down. The air between us was thick with tension. I laid out my plan calmly, coldly. I told her that I'd been gathering evidence, that I had everything I needed to end this once and for all. I explained that I'd call her bluff, reveal everything to her family, her friends, anyone who mattered. "I don't want to hurt you," I said, voice steady. "But you leave me no choice. You betrayed me, and I'm going to make sure you regret it." She looked at me with tears in her eyes, trying to hide her trembling hands. "You're overreacting. It's not what you think. I love you. I never meant for it to go this far." I shook my head slowly. "Love, you weren't even honest with me. You've been planning your escape for months. I deserve better than that." I paused, letting my words sink in. "And now I'm going to make sure you understand what that means." That night I dressed carefully, went through every detail of my plan. I'd set up a recorded conversation, just a snippet to play when the time was right. I'd gather all the proof I could find, then make her listen. She would know in that moment how badly she'd screwed up. The feeling of something cathartic bubbling inside me was almost overwhelming. I turned her game against her. I was finally in control. There was no turning back now. The pieces were in motion. When I finally left her alone that evening, I felt lighter, like I'd shed a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying for months. She was scared, I could see it. Good. She needed to be. The revenge I was planning wasn't just about punishment. It was about sending a message that betrayal always comes with a price. And I was going to make sure she paid. The following day, I woke up with a strange mix of relief and anticipation. I knew the plan was coming together, and I was ready to see it through. I spent the morning setting everything up, replaying the recorded snippet I'd made, double-checking the evidence I'd collected. I wanted every detail to be perfect, every move calculated. I wasn't about to leave anything to chance. She, of course, sensed the tension. She kept giving nervous glances my way, her hands jittering as she fidgeted with her coffee cup. I saw her trying to maintain some semblance of calm, but I knew better. She was panicking. That was good. That was exactly what I needed. Around noon, I leaned against the kitchen counter, watching her. I decided to push her a little, see how fragile her composure really was. "So," I said casually, "you're planning to leave me, huh, after all these years?" She looked away, pretending to be busy with her phone. "It's not what you think," she muttered. "Oh, I think I know exactly what it is," I shot back. "You've been sneaking around with Mark for months, planning your escape. Honestly, I'm surprised it took me this long to figure it out." Her shoulders sagged slightly, but she kept her face blank. "You don't understand." "I understand more than you think," I interrupted. "And that's why I've got everything I need now. Your silence doesn't matter anymore." That's when I pulled out my phone, showing her the recordings, the messages, the photos. Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She looked like a fish out of water, grasping for breath. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" I asked, voice low, dangerous. "Did you believe I'd never see through your lies?" She finally managed to squeak out, "Please, I was going to tell you." "You weren't planning to tell me anything," I said coldly. "You were planning to disappear, to start over with Mark, leaving me behind like I was nothing. Well, guess what? That's not how this ends. Her eyes welled up with tears. She looked small, broken even. That only fueled my resolve. She'd betrayed me, yes, but I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I told her to pack her things. I wanted her out of the house before sunset. I explained I'd be calling her family, telling them everything. She'd be facing the consequences of her actions. I wasn't interested in petty revenge anymore. I just wanted her to understand that betrayal always comes with a price. While she packed her bags, I sat in the living room, watching her every move. I felt a strange mixture of anger, relief, and a quiet sense of victory. She had no idea what was coming next. As she loaded her suitcase, I handed her the keys to the house, my voice calm but firm. You're leaving today. Don't come back, not without an apology that means something, and don't even think about reaching out to me afterward. You've burned that bridge. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. I never meant for it to go this far. Maybe not, I said, standing up. But it did, and now you get to live with the fallout. She nodded, silent, and walked out the door, her footsteps echoing down the hall. I watched her leave, feeling a strange sense of emptiness and relief all at once. It was over. Or so I thought. That night I sat alone in my house, the silence deafening. I knew she'd try to contact me, try to explain or apologize, but I wasn't interested anymore. I'd made my decision and I'd stick to it. No more lies, no more betrayal. I looked around at the empty space where she used to be, and for a moment I felt a strange clarity. It's amazing how betrayal can open your eyes, how it forces you to see what was really in front of you all along. My takeaway: trust is fragile. When it breaks, the only way to heal is to cut out the infection completely. And sometimes that means taking control of the situation, no matter how much it hurts. Because if you don't, someone else will. The days that followed were a blur of cold mornings and quiet nights. I focused on reclaiming my space and my peace, but honestly, the wound of her betrayal still burned deep. I kept replaying everything: the lies, the sneaking around, the way she looked at Mark like he was the answer to all her problems. That ache in my chest was still there, but I knew I had to get through it. I stayed firm, kept my distance from her, and refused to chase after explanations she clearly wasn't willing to give. I made a point to clear out her things, pack away the memories, and take back what was mine. Every item I boxed up felt like a small victory, every move a reminder that I wasn't going to let her control the narrative anymore. I knew she'd try to reach out, but I had already decided. I was done. One evening, I finally sat down and reflected. I realized all the red flags I'd ignored over the years. The late nights with her phone, the secretive glances, the way she dodged my questions when I asked about her plans. It hit me like a punch in the gut. How many signs had I missed? How many moments of doubt did I brush aside? I told myself I should have seen it coming, but honestly, I'd been blind. Love can do that to you. It blinds you to reality, makes you see what you want to see. But now I saw everything clearly. She'd been planning her exit for quite a while, and I was just too naive to realize it. I reached out to Mark's number just once to get closure. I didn't want to argue or fight. I simply told him, stay away from her. You've already crossed a line and I don't want to hear from you again. His reply was brief but chilling. It's none of your business anymore. That was enough. That night I sat alone in my apartment, the silence embracing me. My mind was heavy but focused. I knew I had to move on, but I didn't want to do it with bitterness. No, I wanted to do it with clarity. I wanted her to see that her betrayal hadn't broken me. If anything, it had made me stronger. The biggest lesson I learned: never ignore the small signs. Love doesn't mean blind trust, and betrayal usually starts with tiny cracks in the foundation. When you see them, confront them head-on or they'll swallow you whole. I decided I was finally done chasing after answers. What's done is done. But I'd make sure she understood one thing: I was the one who'd come out on top. Not her, not Mark, me. And I'd rebuild from the ruins. Because if you give someone the power to destroy you, you're letting them win. And I wasn't about to let her win anything anymore. Next, I'd figure out what I really wanted, what I'd learned from this mess, and how I'd move forward. Because life goes on. And trust me, the best revenge is living well without them. That evening, I took the final step. I went to my desk, pulled out the set of keys she'd left behind, and handed them over with a quiet finality. It felt surreal, like closing a chapter I'd been desperate to finish for months. I looked at her, standing in my doorway, her face a mixture of regret and desperation, and I knew I'd made the right choice. "Here," I said softly, holding out the keys. "You don't need them anymore. Take your things and go. Just don't bother coming back." She looked at me, eyes glossy, lips trembling. "I never wanted it to turn out like this. I love you." "Love," I cut her off. "That's a nice word. But love isn't sneaking around behind someone's back, planning to leave and then pretending everything's fine. Love is honesty, loyalty, respect, and you threw all that away, so don't come back, not now, not ever." She hesitated, then grabbed her bags, eyes fixed on the floor. As she turned away, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. It was over, finally. The betrayal that had festered inside me for months was out in the open, and I was free. I watched her leave, each step echoing in that quiet apartment. When she slammed the door behind her, I let out a long breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. The house suddenly felt different, lighter, emptier, but somehow more real. I'd finally reclaimed my space, my dignity, my self-respect. In the days that followed, I focused on healing. I threw myself into work, into friends, into rediscovering what made me happy, things I'd neglected during the chaos of her betrayal. I didn't block her right away. I wanted her to understand that her actions had consequences. Still, I knew she'd try to reach out someday. That was inevitable. But I was done chasing after her. I had made my decision. I'd sent her the message she'd never see coming. I'd filed for divorce. I wanted her to know that I was serious about cutting her loose. I handed the papers over to my lawyer, feeling an odd sense of relief as I saw those words, "final," binding on the page. That moment was the culmination of everything. I'd been betrayed, yes. I'd been humiliated, but I'd also learned a vital truth. No one can take away your dignity unless you let them. And I refused to give her that power anymore. Looking back, I realized betrayal is the end of the world. It's a brutal lesson, sure, but it's also an awakening. It forces you to see what really matters: yourself, your boundaries, your self-worth. No one deserves to be lied to and used. Not you, not anyone. So here's my advice: trust your gut. When you see the red flags, don't ignore them or make excuses. Your instincts are usually right. And when betrayal happens, don't be afraid to take control. Revenge isn't about hurting others. It's about reclaiming your power and moving forward. The best revenge is living your life better without them. I handed over the keys to my old life that day, and with it, I closed that chapter forever. Now I'm rebuilding, stronger, wiser, and finally free. And that, I've learned, is the real victory.